This is a map of the United States of America. And this is a map of the United States of America with all of the 32 NFL teams on it. And this is how they are represented throughout the United States for which states specifically these teams represent. Obviously, there are a couple of exceptions almost, as New England is represented by the Patriots, but they're only in Massachusetts. They only did them. But either way, there aren't exactly a ton of people in the other New England states. And of course, New Jersey hosts the Jets and the Giants, but they represent New York and New York City. And this leaves 28 states that are not represented in pretty much any way at all. And, 28 states, you would think that that's a lot because that is 3 over half of the entire United States, but that's only 74 million people compared to the nearly 274 million people that take up the 22 states that are represented. Which obviously makes sense. They're going to put NFL teams where the people live and where they're going to give you money to watch games. But that still leaves a lot of the United States completely blank in some pretty big areas as well. Obviously, like Oregon with Portland, New Mexico with Albuquerque, Oklahoma with OKC, and a couple more. And a lot of these states and cities basically just have to root for the closest one, or if your family always has rooted for one, then that's the one you're going to choose. And you would think that there would be a simple solution, relocation, which obviously would be the solution, but it's kind of complicated. The NFL is probably going to be expanding within the next 10, 15 years, but it's not going to be North America, probably at all. It is very likely to be Europe, which makes sense. A lot more people that aren't specifically represented over there, and it's obviously a way to start making this sport worldwide, which is great. But today, I wanted to expand the NFL still in North America for the cities that are underrepresented. Obviously, who knows when these cities are going to get one? They might never, This might become a global thing, and they're just going to be left in the dust. But I wanted to take a look and add about 10 teams to the NFL and see where I would put them. But first, I do have to mention the cities that I declined for NFL expansion. Boise, I think good fans. Idaho, it's possible, but it's just not big enough. I think it would be a great representation for the Montana, Wyoming area, but I don't know. I think it would be a long time before Boise would get one. Sacramento, it's in that, whole Bay General area, not Bay Area, obviously, but very close to it. Sacramento, very big city. It could handle it. It handles the NBA's Kings, but I don't know. I don't like 4 California teams. I don't even like 2 LA teams, so, Orlando, very populous city. There's a reason they have the Magic there in the NBA. But I don't like 4 Florida teams. Jacksonville, but it's just a better place, way more populous than Orlando. And I don't like having a team in Orlando, honestly. I don't know why. I don't know what I have against Orlando. I don't like teams there. San Antonio, I am going to discuss because I will give Austin a team. But it's very flippity-floppity between which one you want between San Antonio and Austin. Birmingham, I like the idea, but there's just not a ton of people in that Alabama, Mississippi area. I think they're much more represented by the Falcons and the Saints. I think it just works better. Virginia Beach, I think it's possible. Virginia, it's a very big unrepresented state, but I think it's kind of similar to the New Jersey situation, where New Jersey has a ton of people, but they're already very represented by the Eagles and Giants and Jets. Virginia, I feel like, is represented by the Commanders, Ravens, Panthers pretty well. It's possible, but I don't like it. Now for the out of continental USA, Anchorage and Honolulu for Alaska and Hawaii. Just too far away, not too many people. Honolulu, I could see it, but it's just too far away. I could very much see it, and travel restrictions are not as big of a thing nowadays, but does Honolulu really need an NFL team? I don't know. But now into the actual teams that I did give to cities. But first, let's take a look at this sexy map. Oh my god. Take away the borders. It looks incredible. Let's start filling up some of this white space. And starting in Omaha with the Omaha Antelope. Now, obviously, Omaha isn't exactly the largest city, only about 60,000 people. A big, decent city, and definitely worthy and able to host an NFL team. And Nebraska does have 2 million people. And also, it kind of goes hand in hand with Iowa, because Omaha is right on the border. Iowa usually is just going to be choosing between the Chiefs, Packers, and Vikings, sometimes Bears as well. This would be very natural just to have basically the same situation as the Chiefs do, with them pretty much representing Kansas. And I'm sure that some in Kansas are rooting for the Broncos or the Cowboys, but this would be very similar how Kansas City would represent Missouri and Kansas, Omaha would represent Nebraska and Iowa, and potentially obviously South Dakota as well. I think it's a pretty natural spot for if we were to add, 4-8 teams into the league. And plus, I mean, Peyton Manning would have to have some sort of ownership. You can't just have an NFL team in Omaha and not have Peyton Manning have nothing to do with it. It's perfect, really. And then we come to the name and colors. I chose the antelopes. I'm pretty sure it's the plural of antelope is antelopes. I think antelopes are a very cool creature. They're obviously one of the Great Plains creatures. And I don't know, I think they're really cool. They're really, really fast. I think in terms of how far and how fast they can run, one of the fastest creatures on Earth. And I don't know, I like them a lot. I like the logos. I got a couple of logos for them, and I personally like both of them a lot. I do want you to keep in mind for some of these logos that I did use AI to at least give me like a general base to start coloring and to edit some of the features. And all of the other logos I take from just Google. I'm not that good at Photoshop to actually make logos. But just keep in mind that's where I get these general stuff. But I do change them, and especially obviously change the colors. I really like the color scheme of like a dark blue and then the yellow. I'm pretty sure it's the Omaha flag. And I think it works really well. I think it's a good color or at least color scheme that obviously only the Chargers do, but it's a lighter blue with them. I like it a lot. I like the Omaha Antelopes, and they are in Nebraska. And next up, we have the Portland Pioneers. Portland would probably be the #1 city to expand to, maybe even relocate to, as it's obviously a very, very large city with 630,000 metro population, just behind Seattle, and it's in a generally big state with 4.2 million people in it as well, at least in terms of the states that don't have an NFL team yet. And it would create a very natural rivalry between the Seahawks, the 49ers, the Raiders, those close teams, especially the Seahawks, obviously. And would also fill out, that very populated West Coast fully. And obviously give representation to Oregon, Portland, and another option for Idahoans. Is that probably more Idahoans? Don't want to say Idahos. And then for the name and logo, I think that, I was debating there. Portland's a very cool city. A lot of things I could have chosen. Pioneers, obviously, the Oregon Trail, great game, and obviously a very real thing back in the day. All of the people migrating from the east of the U.S. to the uncolonized West, and obviously kind of dark. I don't know some of these names, but obviously it's a very big thing and very important to why we have Portland and why we have Seattle and all of these major West Coast cities. I think it makes sense, and I really like the colors. I think there are obviously it's still the yellow and blue with the Chargers and Antelopes. But then the green, I think it's a fantastic green. I think it's a good green that would represent, Oregon and Portland pretty well. I do have a couple of logos. I do like the face, like similar to the Patriots, but the gray face. I like that a lot. And then obviously the P in the ear area. I also like the alternate as well with a nice P coming out of... What is that called? I'm not gonna look it up. Wagon. Yeah, wagon. But overall, I think it is a good team, and if we're expanding in North America, Portland is probably going to be one of the first cities that they are going to choose. Next up, we have the Utah Buzzards in Salt Lake City, a very large city. Obviously, people are going to talk about the Mormons and whatever. They love their college football, love their rivalry between Utah and BYU. They're fine. They're going to be fine. Salt Lake City, very big city. Utah, also generally a big state in terms of the ones that aren't represented, with 3 million people, and they can also represent, obviously, a bit of Idaho, a bit of Wyoming as well. And I think it fills out, generally, the unpopulated area. Obviously, we're not putting a team in Idaho or Montana or the Dakotas, which is unfortunate, but they just do not have the cities that can host an NFL team. But back to Utah now. I chose the Buzzards because... I don't know. There was a lot of stuff that I was struggling with. I could have gone with like snowbirds or other stuff. This video is semi-inspired by this video right here. And in it, he does Utah as like the snowbirds. I like that idea, but I wanted to see, I'm pretty sure the buzzard, or I think it's the hawk. The hawk is what it is known out there, but I like buzzards a lot more. Buzzards a lot cooler. It's like the state bird or something like that, or a very common bird at least. And I like it. I really like the color scheme. I really like the little design with almost the mountain design that's kind of in the state flag on the buzzard. I think it might not want to be called buzzards because out there, buzzards are typically referred to as vultures, even though vultures are not buzzards. Buzzards are a type of hawk. So, I don't know. I like it a lot, though, so I'm not going to change it. Then we have OKC, Oklahoma City Bison. I mean, this is just an obvious one. Again, I think if Portland's getting one, Oklahoma City's certainly getting one. It's a pretty big city, 700,000 with the metro population. In Oklahoma, with 4 million people, could certainly sustain an NFL team. And obviously, you see with the NBA Finals, they're a city that has great fans, very loyal fans, and I think it's perfect. Obviously, they can dip into the Arkansas or the Kansas population as well. I think it creates a very natural rivalry with potentially the Cowboys, but definitely like the Chiefs, the Broncos, the Omaha Antelopes as well. And I think it's a perfect spot. I really like it. I did do the bison because obviously that is a very, very important thing to the native people. But it's still a very important creature that has nearly gone extinct due to the Europeans coming over here, which is very sad. But they are, I think, coming back. I know there was a big thing to keep them alive and stop hunting them. But they're very important and a very big part of the Native American culture, and they're just a great animal anyway, obviously across the Great Plains. Great creature, and I think it represents an NFL team pretty big, a big, strong, fast animal. I like it a lot. For the color scheme, I wanted to stay a little bit with the browns, instead of, coloring an animal a new color. I wanted to do it, keep it a little bit brown. But obviously the blue, I believe it is either the Oklahoma, I think it's the Oklahoma state flag. It might be the OKC flag. Obviously going with the Oklahoma City Thunder, same color. But I think it's a great color, and I think it works really well for the OKC Bison. Then for the St. Louis Steamers. When you're adding this many teams, 8, 10 teams, St. Louis is going to have to go up from consideration. And it's honestly, if it wasn't previously abandoned by the Rams and the Cardinals, I might not give it one because they're already represented by the Bears and Chiefs, but they have such a strong fan base for specifically St. Louis. They have a great population, great people, great city, been there many times, very great town. And they definitely deserve an NFL team 100%. And I think doing it with the Steamers, there was a couple of different options. Obviously, like the Arches, I think that would be a pretty cool one. The Spirit, I've seen that thrown around as well. But Steamers, Steamer can refer to either a steam engine, train, or boat, both used in the colonization of Western America. Obviously, St. Louis is like the gateway to the West, the gateway to whatever. And steamer, engine, trains, I think that's a pretty cool logo. I like it a lot. I think St. Louis was it was needed. It's a needed spot for an NFL team, 100%. And I think also Missouri could definitely handle 2 NFL teams. St. Louis, Kansas City, both great sports cities, could handle it. Now on to New Mexico with Albuquerque hosting the New Mexico Dukes. Easily my worst logo. I'm just going to get that out of the way first. Albuquerque, it's a pretty decently sized metro population, just ahead of Atlanta. Obviously not overall as big as Atlanta, I'm pretty sure, but still a big city. And New Mexico, definitely generally a big populous state in terms of the ones that aren't represented. I always have to say that. But it is kind of a blank space between the Cowboys, Broncos, and Cardinals. Definitely not necessary to get a team down there, but I think New Mexico is a good spot for a team. And now onto the name, New Mexico Dukes. New Mexico is heavily associated. Obviously, it used to be a part of the Spain colony of Mexico, so it has very deep Spanish roots. Duke is like a Spanish royalty thing. I don't really know, but it's been thrown around there for name ideas for other sports teams. Terrible logo. Just going to put that out there. I hate it a lot, but it was the best I could do. Couldn't really find a good Duke one. I asked AI, couldn't really do a good one either. But if I put this into Madden eventually, I'll probably find a better one. I do like the colors, though. I think the red and yellow, obviously great flag. I'd probably add that in if I was doing a better logo. And then the blue, that's used in like the New Mexico Lobos of college football. It's associated with New Mexico, so overall terrible logo, good name, and New Mexico probably would get one eventually if they were going to continue expanding in North America. And now for the 7th team, we have the Austin Armadillos. I don't really like expanding Texas. I'm just going to be honest, I don't like doing that because they're very, very represented by the Cowboys and the Texans, obviously Texans, right? And the Cowboys are going to have fans all over Texas. But the Armadillos in Austin, obviously San Antonio, Austin could get either or. You could really just pick either or. But I think Texas is just so big. They can easily handle it. I mean, if we're giving Florida and California and New York 3 teams, Texas could easily handle it. And Austin, I think, is a great place. Fantastic logo. Easily my best logo by far. The Austin Armadillos, it's obviously a name that has been thrown around before, and I used this logo. Incredible logo. Love the color scheme. Kind of Dallas Mavericks feel, but I love it anyway. Love the Armadillos, and I think it would probably happen if we were going to expand in the United States. And now for the Kentucky Jockeys, Louisville, and I think, what is it, Frankfurt? I forget the capital city of Kentucky. It's a big state, 4.5 million people. It's a big one. The only thing is that it's directly next to Cincinnati, Indianapolis, St. Louis, and Tennessee. So I don't know if this one would realistically happen. And it's not like Kentucky needs a team. It's just they have 2 major cities that could handle it, and this could also help represent, the the Virginias, and other stuff. Probably the least likely one to happen, I would say. But Louisville, definitely. Also, if you're from Louisville, tell me if I'm saying it right. I know there's a couple different ways, but I think people from Louisville say Louisville, not Louisville or Louisville. Just want to throw that out there. Anyway, Kentucky Jockeys. I love this logo, and I love the name as well. Kentucky Jockeys, obviously the Kentucky Derby, horse racing, very big out there, and they love their football with the Louisville Cardinals. It's Cardinals, right? Lamar Jackson. But yeah, I think Kentucky, it could happen. I don't think it will, but Kentucky, it could handle it. It could do it. And those are the 8 teams that I have to expand in the United States. What I think is probably more likely is that they are going to expand into Canada and Mexico. And that is why I have 3 other teams that I think could easily be interchangeable with, like Louisville, St. Louis, Austin, other cities like that. Starting with the Toronto Beavers. I think Toronto, if it were to get one, it would probably be the Beavers. This was, I think, one of the most highly recommended when the Toronto Raptors were getting their team named by the fans. And I mean, Toronto, obviously biggest city in Canada. It would represent pretty much all of Canada. And Beavers, very Canadian. I did the red like the Canadian flag. I like it a lot. Now, onto the other Canadian team. I picked Montreal. I could have done Vancouver, but I mean, realistically, Montreal, Vancouver, pretty interchangeable, but Montreal is still very, very large. The Royals, I did it because it's actually very interesting. Montreal, I want to go there someday. It's like New York. It's on an island, on a river instead of the ocean. I guess New York's also on a river. But it's also on a mountain, and it's Mount Royal. So the Royals, I really like that. I like the snowy feel. I chose an alternate from the Rice Owls because I think this either country owl or the country bird or animal or the Quebec. I think it's Quebec. Their animal is the owl. So I think that's a good mascot almost, I like that a lot. Obviously, the issue with Canada is that they're much more into hockey and Canadian football, which is a different version of football. It's a close cousin, but obviously not as popular, but much more popular in Canada. So I don't think Canada is necessarily a realistic one. I think it's possible eventually. I don't think they're getting one, but I do like the idea of a Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver teams. I think it could work eventually, but not anytime soon. And now for Mexico City, 100%, I think that the Mexico City Lobos, this could be very, very successful. Mexico, ton of fans. Mexico City, an absolutely massive city. Mexico, a very large country, obviously, as well. And they have a ton of fans. There's been some international games there. Ton of NFL fans. I think this is very realistic. If we were expanding in North America, Mexico City would probably be one of the first options. And I chose the Mexico City Lobos because New Mexico, their whole thing is the Lobos, and it's Spanish for wolves. And there are Mexican wolves that are there are a lot of Mexican wolves in Mexico, and it's a whole thing. So I like the Mexico City Lobos. I could have done Toros for the Bulls, but bull fighting and that whole thing is kind of banned now in Mexico because it's pretty bad, pretty inhumane, and not great for the bulls. But it's still very culturally significant, so you have to consider it, obviously. But I like the color scheme. I like all of that, and here we are, my fully expanded NFL. Again, I think that Europe is way more likely, but if we were to do that, I think that the team representation would look a little something like this. So yeah, let me know what you think. Let me know if there were some cities I missed, because obviously I said I did decline quite a few cities. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time. See ya.